What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be going over how to change state and kind of just diving into the differences between state and regular variables. So let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do, if you were following along, is just delete these last three H1s. We're just going to keep count for now to kind of keep it simple, and I just want to discuss how to change that first. So here we have our count. So what I'm gonna do is I've set up count. I set up count piece of state. I'm gonna set up a number variable, which is gonna be kind of like the equivalent of count, but as a variable. And we're gonna make this that variable so it's changeable. And so now what we're gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna create a button. Well, actually, before creating a button, I'm going to make a handle click for the button that I'm about to create. So we'll call this function handle click. And what we'll make this function essentially do is we'll make it increase the variable number by 1 each time. So there we go. And we'll also add in the code for it to change state, but first let's put it down here and everything. So we have an H1 with count, and let's add an H1 with the number. So here we go. Okay, so now if we just start up our app, so first I'll just cd into the right directory, and then npm or yarn start depending on what package manager you're using. We just go over the right, it should start up pretty quickly. But while it's doing that, we can implement the code for the handle click to change the state. So right now the state is it starts off as 0. So to set the count, of course we can use the second parameter, which is set count. So all we write is set count, and it's actually a function, so we put in the parentheses to kind of call it. And so with any normal piece of state, you just pass in whatever you want inside of here to change the state. So like if we want to make this hello, we could just type in hello, and now it's hello. And so that's how it works. But in a case where you want to take the previous state and do something to that and make that the new version of the state, in that case what we want to do is use something called prev state. So right now we have set count, right? And in this handle click function, what we want to do is grab the previous count and add 1. We can't just do count plus 1, but what happens when you do this is if you do like multiple of these in one function, it's only going to do it once, it's not going to do it multiple times. So it's very important that you write it like this. You write a prev count, meaning get the previous state of count, and then use it as prev count plus 1. And so the reason there's arrow is it's basically supposed to be like arrow function like this. So that's what it's like, but you don't have to add these because it's all in one line, and React understands what you're doing. So that's this is like a shorthand for the shorthand. Anyways, if we open up our page, you can see we have the 2 zeros. The top one is from the number variable, and the second one is from the count state. So now we can go ahead and do is implement our button. So we'll put down here, what's that button, and we'll just put in here increment. And now we can add in a onClick function. So if you guys remember onClick, we talked about it, I think in part 3 or 4. It basically just goes over everything with like events in React. Anyways, so we have our on click, and we'll set this equal to handle click. And so now every time we click the button, it's going to increment the number variable by 1 and the count state by 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment out this count state line for now. So right now all it's going to do is increment number by 1. And so what we want the result to be is we want number to increase in front of our eyes on the page. So we'll just reload this, and now if we try this, it's not working. And so now what we'll do is we'll comment this line, we'll uncomment this line, just to fix that, and we'll comment out the variable line. And now let's give this a try. Number, where did I put that? Oh, okay, that could have been the reason why it didn't work, so let's fix that. 1 second. So let's try that again. Reload and increment. Oh, increment. Nope, it's not working, as we can see. So now what we'll do is we'll just comment this back out and comment this one in. So now if we let this load up and we give it a shot, you'll see that every time we press increment, the state is increasing, and it's showing us this. So the reason this is happening is pretty simple. Up here we're declaring our number variable and our state. Now in this function what we're doing is having our state increase and our number increase, right? I think everyone understands that. Then this is happening, the JavaScript is in the page, and then in our HTML or JSX in this case, every time handle click is being clicked, the number is being increased in JavaScript, but it's not, every time it updates, it's not re-rendering the page. So you're not going to see the updated result here. But when you have state, it's going to re-render the page every time a change occurs. So that's kind of like the big advantage of state. Every time state changes, the whole page re-renders, meaning everything in your JSX re-renders. So if your count has changed from what it was before on the page, it'll update. And that's kind of why we really use state in React. It's very flexible, and it allows you to kind of really have a good control over what, your consumer or user sees. So now we can do is go ahead and get rid of this number of code. And what I want to show you guys now is how this would work with something a little bit more simple. Like for example, a number. So you know what, we can just delete this count, and instead we'll set up the text piece of state we had before. So text and set text, and just like before, we can set it equal to use state, and everything's the same. And we'll start off the initial state as just a empty pair of quotes, because we don't really plan on having anything in there. And so now this example is going to be with an input. So what we'll do is get rid of this button, and in this H1 we'll put text. So then every time I'm typing out something in the input box, you can see it in the text. We'll also get rid of this handle click since we don't need it anymore. So yes, now if we load up our page, you should just see, header and footer, and the element is here, but you can't see because it's just empty quotes. Okay, so now we'll set up an input. Inputs are also something you're going to use really commonly in React, because, if you're setting up a form or anything, you need an input. As discussed before, an input just has, is self-closing in React, in JSX, so we don't need to take care of anything there. And so now what we'll define in here is the input value, and it's going to be equal to, our text state, right? But see, the problem with this is now that when we start to type in here, as you can hear right now, I'm typing in there, but it's not going to make any change because I'm not, because it's equal to this text variable, and text state, and the text state isn't changing, right? So we have to set something up for that to happen. So there's another type of event called onChange, and so what that means is every time a change occurs inside the input box. So like when you type something, that counts as a change. Anytime a change occurs, I want you to run this code. So we have an option here. If we want, we can put in a function in these parentheses. Like you can write a direct arrow function in here, or you can opt to write a function outside in your JavaScript and then link it here. I prefer just write it inside here because it's a really simple code. All you need to do is grab the event in the onChange. So you grab the event, and then what you have to do is you have to set your text, piece of state, equal to the event.target.value, as you can see right here, event.target.value. And so now this is good to go, and if I run this now and I start typing, you'll see the result right above it. So see, here you go, I'm typing. I'll just type in hello world, then it's happening concurrently. So that should really show you, how inputs work. Something we didn't discuss before, but it's definitely something really valuable. Okay, so the next piece of state I want to cover are objects. So we'll change this up. We'll make it const obj set obj. Actually, we'll make this. Actually, yeah, we'll keep it a regular object. And so what we'll do is we'll just delete this for now because we don't want to render this out. And so we'll make this equal to an object, and we'll have a name. We'll set that equal to, I don't know, John. Oh, also one more thing before we move on. If you want to have an object with completely empty sets, you could do something like this with empty quotes or just 0. You could also use null or defined, but it's up to you. Anyways, we'll start off with name as John and last name as Doe. And then what we'll do is I'll show you guys how to kind of add stuff to this piece of state. So a lot of times, when you're working with objects in state, you're not going to want to necessarily completely change the state. Instead, you'll want to kind of take the previous state and add on to it. So we'll create a function here, and what we'll do is this function will change our object, and we can go ahead and have these brackets. So in here, what we'll do is we'll do set object. And we don't want to, let's say we don't want to change this object, we want to keep name and last name. But let's say we want to push, I don't know, an email property. We can do set obj, and then what we can do is have a pair of brackets, of the curly brackets, and we can use prev state here. We'll have prev obj. We'll do one of these arrow functions, and we'll write prev obj, and then we'll use the spread operator, which, if I'm being honest, I don't remember if it goes ahead or after. Anyways, prev obj, and then we'll have our property, so like email, and it'll be, I don't know, John Doe at gmail.com. right? So yeah, I think it's before actually, so let me fix that. Prev obj, and yeah, and then we have our comma. And what is the problem? Unexpected token. Okay, I think I know why this is happening. I'll add those parentheses in. And what's the problem? Oof, no, I'm still getting an error. Let me just check this out, guys. I'll be back in a second. Okay, guys, I figured out the problem. So, all it was is that we don't need these parentheses here. as was the case with the last time we were using prev object, we just need to add a pair of parentheses around the object, the new object, because it's kind of like we're setting the object, and then the prev object is kind of like our function, but then actually setting it we have to use the parentheses. So now the way we can check if this is working is we'll add a console.log of our object, and we'll just run this in the very beginning of our code. So we'll write change object, and we'll run it. So now if we open up our browser, we see our React app loading, and we want to go ahead and inspect element. Too many renders. So this is good. This is an error you'll see a lot of times in React. So we can just go ahead and inspect our console. So it says too many re-renders. There is okay. So our object did render out. It did add the email. Why were there too many re-renders? Let's try to figure this out. So we're setting our object here to prev object. Maybe if we get rid of these parentheses, I don't know why I feel like that. Maybe something. Let's reload. What's going on? Functions are not valid as reactable. Yeah, that's fine, but yes, we can. So actually, we'll do this instead. We will add this. We'll just create a button and run this code like that. So let me just add a button component, and we'll just write hello. Whatever. It doesn't matter that much. And we'll add a on click. And inside this, we'll just put change object. Okay, and now let's give this a shot. There we go. Now it's working fine. So as you can see, the first time I clicked it, it didn't work, and the reason is because it just changed it to constant. Like it just okay. So essentially, when a function runs, it runs top to bottom. But it runs straight through, right? Meaning it didn't catch this change. So if we want to see it, we can make this an async function. So let's make it async, add an await, and now it should show us right at the beginning. Click it once. It is still not gonna show. Wait, let me just reload that. Okay, so why is it not showing us the email in the very first console.log statement? I'm assuming essentially it's because of a promise that is being returned. So async await's not going to help us with that. But anyways, this will work fine in your apps when you do actually try to use it. The point just being here to show you guys that objects can be changed as well in really interesting ways. Something that's used really commonly, especially with data, is an array of objects. So you'll get pretty acquainted with that. In fact, we'll take a look at that in our next part when we go back to our data.js file, and we map over this and use state as well. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, and consider subscribing for more content. If you do have any suggestions, or you had any questions, or you got a little lost during this video, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to help you guys out. And yeah, that's going to be all for today's video. I will see you guys next time. Peace.